Hey there, you ready for another demo video from Ms. Strong? I certainly hope so, because I am here to help you out today with Unit 2, Homework 3. So let's get started. We are now combining fractions. We have already combined integers, meaning positive and negative whole numbers. And the rules for combining fractions are exactly the same. I know that lots of you kind of dread fractions. To tell you the truth, they are my friend. I love fractions, and I hope that I will teach you that they're not horrible, and you will like them too. However, you have your handy-dandy, trusty, nifty calculator, and if you will simply use parentheses when you enter a fraction into the calculator, you can do all of these problems there. Toward the end of the video, I will pull up my calculator and help you out with that. But right now, we're going to look at the problems we have here, which are all addition problems. I say addition problems, I talk about combining fractions, because as we see, sometimes when we combine and we have positive and negative, we add, and sometimes we subtract, and it really, you cannot tell which you're going to do by looking at that sign in the middle. The way you tell which you're going to do, whether you're going to add or subtract, is to determine whether you have two numbers with the same sign, then you would add, and if you have two numbers with a different sign, you would subtract. So my writing's lovely there, isn't it? Then we have to determine if our answer is going to be positive or negative, and that is determined by which number is the biggest. We'll always follow that sign. So, that said, let's look at our numbers and see what's up here. I see a negative right in front of 3/7, so this guy is a negative number. I see a positive sign right in front of 1/7, and so this guy is a positive number. I now know that I have one positive and one negative. That means they are different signs, and I have to subtract the two numbers, even though there's an addition in the middle of them. So these numbers get subtracted because they are different signs. I'm not going to work a lot, or at all really, on the whole common denominator, all that mess. We're going to take care of all of that in our calculator. Right now, we're just going to think about, do we add or do we subtract, and is our answer going to be positive or negative? So we just said that we're going to subtract in this problem because there are two different signs, one positive and one negative. Well, this is kind of an easy one, I hope you think, because it's 3/7 and 1/7. It already has a common denominator, so it's easy to subtract the two. I subtract 3 minus 1, and I get 2/7. Then I have to think about, is it a positive 2/7 or a negative 2/7? And the way I do that is I think about which number is bigger. And I hope you recognize that 3/7 is the larger number, and it is negative. Therefore, our answer is negative. I think of it as when we subtract, it's like I owe somebody 3/7, and I have 1/7. When I subtract, I still owe. I don't have a positive value. I owe money still. That's the way I always try to put it in terms of money, and it always helps me out. The second one, 3/5, is clearly positive because there is no sign in front of it. 1/4 might be a little harder for you to determine because it has a plus sign and a negative sign. But remember, that negative sign kind of overpowers. So this 1/4 is really a negative number. So again, we're going to subtract the two values. This time, I'm going to do it on my calculator. I'm not going to mess with getting a common denominator, yada, yada, yada. You don't have to either. So let me tell you what I'm typing now, and later I will pop my calculator up for you. So I'm putting parentheses and then 3 divided by 5. That's how I get that fraction bar is by division. I'm going to type it in exactly how I see it, to tell you the truth. I'm going to say plus, and then I'm going to use my cute little negative sign at the bottom. Remember that little one with the parentheses in it? Around it. And then I'm going to put my fraction in parentheses again. So 1 divided by 4 and end my parentheses. When I push enter, I get 0.35. And it even, whoops, wrong one, 0.35. and it even tells me that my answer is positive. We know that we need to subtract the two. Oh, by the way, when I push math and then enter, it will change it to a fraction for me, and that fraction is 7/20. So in case you have a multiple choice answer that's not a decimal, that will do it for you. Let's look at these last two, and I am not going to bother to pop them all in the calculator because, like I say, it's really just about, do I add or do I subtract, and is my answer positive or negative? The rest of it we're going to deal with in the calculator, and I'll show you that in a bit. So here I see a negative 4/3. Again, I see plus a negative 7/9. That negative sign overrules and tells me that I have two negative numbers. That means I'm going to add them together and that my answer is going to be a negative number. And I would do that on my calculator. Last one, positive 4/3. There's no sign in front of it. It must be positive. 2/9, again, just a positive in front of it, so it's positive. This is a simple addition problem where we add the two fractions. They're both positive, and our answer will be positive. Let's look at a couple more. This idea of being able to write a problem with either a plus sign in the middle or a minus sign in the middle, depending on how I care to write it at the time, or maybe depending on what the situation is that I'm writing about or writing the problem about, I can write it with plus or minus. So I just thought I'd take a second just to point that out and show you that we can write all of these problems with a plus sign. How? Well, you never change the sign of the guy in front. So the guy in front, negative 3/7, he's still negative 3/7. But if I want to put a plus sign instead of this guy in the middle there, then I could say plus negative 1/7. This plus negative 1/7 and minus 1/7 are the exact same thing. In other words, I can subtract $1 or I can add a negative $1. And that's the same thing. And that's one of the concepts we really want you to start seeing. I know that you already know that when you see a double negative in the middle like these two, that you are definitely going to change that into a positive sign. That's our not, right? And not is a double negative. It changes to a positive. So really, this is just an addition problem. Negative 4/3 plus 7/9. And the last one, 4/3. Again, we can say plus a negative 2/9. Now, why did I go through all that and change every problem from a subtraction problem to an addition problem? Simply to show you that we can represent it either way and to help you get rid of the idea that you grew up with in elementary and middle school, and that idea said, if you see a plus sign here, you're going to add. And that's not true anymore because sometimes you're going to see a negative right after it, and that means you subtract. Same thing goes true for a negative sign. If you see a negative in between there, it doesn't mean you subtract. You have to be careful. Look at the sign of both numbers before you know when to add or subtract, and how big the numbers are to see if your answer is going to be positive or negative. So let's look at a couple of word problems, and we're almost done here. A baker ate 1/6 of his brownies and sold 1/3 of his brownies. What part of the brownies were eaten or sold? In other words, what is a 6 times a third? What is 1/6 times 1/3? He ate a 6 and a third. Then he ate,
Plus.
oops, did I really say times?
Yeah,
What
you
is
did.
1/6 plus 1/3, right? If he ate a 6th of his brownies and sold a 1/3 of his brownies, then altogether he ate 1/6 plus 1/3 of his brownies. I will show you one time and only one time just to help you refresh your memory because we're not going to concentrate on common denominators. If I add two fractions, I must first change the fractions to have the same denominator. 1/6 works just fine, and I can change 1/3 by multiplying it by 2/2. That means I'm multiplying by 1, and I'm not changing its value. We learned that from our mathematical properties. 2/2 is just a funny form of 1, but it's still the value of 1. So in this problem, I need to add 1/6 and 2/6. I get 3/6. If I reduce that, 1/2, I get 1/2. He either ate or sold half of his brownies, and he must have half of his brownies still left in his bakery case. How about this one? Inez had a 3 2/3 foot ribbon. So her ribbon is 3 2/3 foot long. And if you want to put 3 2/3 in the calculator, by the way, you can do it this way. Put a parenthesis, put a plus sign between them, put another set of parentheses here, and then the whole thing. So I know that looks kind of weird, and it's probably best to simply say, oh, 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11, and change that into an improper fraction of 11/3, which you did right here anyway. So I just want to kind of show you both ways. She has a ribbon that's this long. She will use 1 1/6 of that. So she is going to use 1 plus 1/6 of the ribbon. I think you know that if she starts with this much and she uses some, you're going to subtract that amount away to see how many feet she has left. You could pop exactly what I have written on this in the calculator, and it would work for you. You could, as long as you use all those parentheses, you could also simply say 11/3 minus 7/6 and pop that into your calculator. And again, I'm going to leave that one up to you because I think on the next slide, yep, we're going to get out our calculator. So let me work on that for you just a second to pop that calculator up. And I'm going to put a few problems in for you just to help you see how cool and nice and easy they work on the calculator. So we're almost there now. Let me pop it over here. And I need to make it visible to everybody this way. Sharing it. Give it just a second to come through. I know your screen gets black for a minute, and then you should be there with me. I think you were back with me. I hope so. Okay, so I think you see my calculator right in front of us here. And I'm going to just put some fractions in, give you an idea how to work with that. So how about I do one of those ones that has mixed numbers in it? That seems like one of the hard, you know what, I'm going to back off on that. I'm going to put in, what am I going to put in? I'm going to put in negative 1 divided by 2 into the parentheses plus, and if I need a negative sign again, I'm going to always use that one. The only time I use subtraction is if it's that very particular one right in the middle. This time I'm going to use plus a negative 5 divided by 2 in my parentheses. What do you think? Are these numbers going to get added or subtracted? I hope you say added because they're actually both negative numbers, and we'll add and get a bigger negative. So let's push enter. And I happen to get a whole number this time, which was not what I wanted. So let me get one out that gives you a fraction for an answer, because I want to quickly show you how to make sure you can turn a fraction to a decimal and vice versa. So let's use something like 1 divided by 6. And from that, we will subtract 2 divided by, let's try 9. Let's press enter, and we get the goofiest little decimal ever, don't we? And we say, oh, but that decimal is not in my multiple choice answer. Well, you have two choices. You can put the fractions that are your answers into the calculator and see which one matches. Or you can come over here and push the math button and tell the calculator to turn that into a fraction. So I press enter, enter one more time, and is that special or what? Pop that decimal right into a fraction for me. Okay. I hope that you have an awesome time going and getting your homework done. And I think I will see you next time. It is time to do a homework demo video. Does that work for you? I hope so. See you next time.